we've established quorum, and I think it's well worth just doing some quick introductions around the room. And we could go ahead and start online. And Mary, if you don't mind kicking us off, and then we'll go to Amy.
I'm Mary Duran. I oversee El Paso, and I was Teller, but I think I'm going to be sticking with El Paso County for now. Been on the commission about a year.
Amy Mitchell, Park County County Commissioner and Vice Chair for the Commission on Aging.
Thank you, Amy.
And sorry, I'm not there in person. I was at a water stream restoration event earlier this morning, so I was out communing with nature. So sorry I didn't make it.
No worries at all.
Paula Levy, Never Alone Consulting, El Paso County. Well, I'm Erin Marisella. I'm here representing Innovations in Aging Collaborative.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Peyton Romero, and I'm representing El Paso County and have the privilege of being chair. I joined the commission, November of last year. I don't know how many months that is, but November of last year.
I'm Steve Frick, a Teller County representative, also on the board of Teller Senior Coalition with a particular interest in veterans issues.
Melissa Martz with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging.
Amy Smith.
Amy is our guest, and we are going to be looking at voting her in today as a new commission member on this crazy day.
Very happy to be here.
Welcome, Amy. All right. Agenda approval. Any recommended revisions of the agenda?
Move we accept the agenda as written.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Paula. We'll go ahead and approve the agenda and move over to our consent items. And we will also look at June's meeting minutes, and we'll look for any comments on that or motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes from June.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Second.
Thank you,
Amy Mitchell, second.
Any comments or recommended revisions on the meeting minutes from June? There are none. And we'll go ahead and vote. Yep. We'll vote on the minutes. Anyone opposed to approving the meeting minutes? Hearing none, we'll consider those approved. Thanks all. We'll move on to public comments and presentations. Is there anyone from the public online or any comments needing to be made or submitted electronically that we need to look at?
So, Mr. Chair, we did not receive any advance requests for public comment. We did not receive any public comments via email, and there is no one online who is not already a commissioner member. So then we can move forward.
All right, I'll just keep on moving along here to item 5 in action items, which is another voting item on the membership of Miss Amy Smith. This comes recommended by our membership committee, chaired by Paula. And Paula, I will give you the floor for any notes you have for this recommendation.
Yes. Hey, Amy. Hi. I think we've met before, right? In different networking things. I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. So to meet you in person again. Yes. So for those of you who weren't here or want to hear this again, Amy is the sales director at the Bridge at Colorado Springs and the Inn at Garden Plaza. She's held every position from activities director to executive director, and she has extensive marketing experience and volunteer work in various areas, including supporting first responders. Her primary passion is supporting older adults, and her experience includes member over, oh, sure, no, I'm sorry. Experience with senior population. As I understand it, you also live in a mountain area.
I do.
So we need representation in that area, so I would, excited about that area being represented. So with that, I would move to vote Amy into the COA membership as a commissioner.
Fantastic.
Second. I'll second that.
All in favor in voting Amy onto the Commission on Aging, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And none. Okay. Amy, welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're so excited to have you and just giving your expertise. As I said, your insight into the Fountain area community will be so valuable to move forward and really kind of solidify some of our strategies and some of the action steps that we have ahead of us. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very happy.
Fantastic. So we will move right along to information and Paul, it looks like you'll have the floor again and any membership committee updates or noodles in the matrix that we need to review today.
I don't have any membership updates unless I forget things. As far as the matrix, I think we just filled the hole in Fountain that, and we have been kind of just treading water as far as on and then decided to need representation for the senior population. And with that, liaison person, which we've always had, but you being a bonus senior executive in the arena, senior care arena, plus living in Fountain, you're like almost a trifecta. So I like to hear. Really welcome. And then the same with Steve as far as being board member and really active in the Teller County, plus being able to serve in this capacity to represent Teller County. So just knowing that we're really trying to spread our tentacles out and finding people in the monument in Eastern Colorado Springs, Eastern El Paso County. We're just trying to fill the holes that we had. And so before we were just like going, oh, he looks good. He's on the party. Let's go. Let's go ask him. We're really trying to target solid membership from counties that are underrepresented.
That's what Sharon had told me
Yeah.
when I first met her.
Yeah. So and again, I don't know if you saw my email, but I'd love to just connect and have coffee with you and just kind of give you the lay of the land.
Absolutely.
Offline.
I'd love to.
Okay, great.
The guy in the corner that she's talking about was me. We'll get that out of the way. No, and to your point, Amy, and Sharon, describing a little bit about the commission and everything like that. Just a notable thing in that our PPACG board has the ability to appoint people to our commission. And so that's something that we certainly want to encourage board members of PPACG to continue to do so that we are able to have that representation geographically. I would also, in the materials that were sent in advance, and Melissa, I don't know if you could pull that in front of them. It is the Commission on Aging Committee members document that has, the citizens at large, the town of Calhoun. That'll really give us insight of where those vacant spots are And as Paula had said, we're just really being strategic on ensuring that we have that representation. So we're really leaning on that matrix and this document to guide us as we're recruiting folks. And I'm certainly a proponent of it's a collective effort. Paula has done a phenomenal job as our membership committee chair in engaging folks. But at the same time, I feel like it's all of our responsibility to go into our whether physical or mental Rolodex of who our networks are and who we're looking for to engage and encourage to participate on this commission.
One of the things I love is I have so many connections and relationships with every resource that's available to seniors. So that, and I have a relationships with many people over 55, which is kind of, I seen from the last meeting, we're trying to get more people involved in that way too. So I'm like, in the email, I was like, I was thinking all night. So I am very excited.
So even if we could, me and another person or something, we can get in front of groups in Palmer Lake or Manitou or Monument that are like a Kiwanis group or a Rotary group that would have possibly an interested person that would be interested in being a participant and getting in front of those groups to talk just about what we do and then say, by the way, there's an opportunity if you are interested, come visit our meeting and serve. Because we need to target those areas. And I know those groups are always looking for speakers.
Wonderful idea.
So I'm happy to, I am for membership, so I will explore that, but I think having someone else come along. That would be great.
I'd like to participate in that.
Okay, Steve, I will get your cell, or it's probably on the roster, and I will connect with you because I think it'd be great to do that.
Amazing.
I've sat in many Rotary meetings and have been on the receiving end of a presentation like that, so I think that's where you go to get people that are in service. So,
Love that idea. Yeah, sounds fantastic. And yeah, I think of and it is also included with our materials of us setting some goals internally. It's something I've been thinking about pretty hard of like, what are some internal goals to set for ourselves? And Paula, we might have talked about this in brief, like during an executive committee meeting. But I think a target goal internally amongst the membership committee may look something like filling 3 different vacant geographies. So by the end of the year. So if we really kind of hold ourselves accountable, have something tangible in front of us to aim for, that might really guide our decisions and how we're going about things. So I would propose that the membership committee collectively look at identifying the 3 geos. It doesn't have to be like anything specific, but if we're able to fill 3 of the existing vacant by the end of the year, that would be phenomenal.
A question about this,
Yes.
about the matrix. Is there a version of the matrix that's accessible online to all of us to edit independently, or should I email maybe Paula to update the matrix with that info?
So when I do an orientation with you
Okay.
and Amy and Kathy, that's when
Okay.
you guys will give me your info and then we'll update it.
Okay, for the matrix, okay.
Yes, so yours will be coming.
And after our last meeting, I went online to our website to pull down this document, the Commission on Aging Committee Members document, to think about who I might know in those regions. And the one online does not match this one that's here. So I don't know if now is the time to update that document. I don't know how many people are going there for that information, but just a comment that when we're ready to get people onboarded, maybe updating that, and then I could share that when I'm talking to people in different areas who might have some ideas about those people to join the group. And would we rather, it's a second question to that, would we rather share this current document that we have here or direct people to our website and have them get it from what's updated there?
think either one. So
Okay.
knowing that the website has not got all the members on there right now, we can get that updated, but I can send out a current one of these to everybody, just to
Okay.
have as your own copy.
Okay,
And then we'll update the website.
okay,
And so whichever way works easier.
okay.
So, if you want to send it out, it's probably easier to send it to the website than it is this. Put an attachment on there.
Yeah.
So just give us a couple of days to get the website updated.
Yeah. Some solid action items. Might I propose that we update the website like quarterly for our commission? So it's not like every time we get someone, we update it. It's kind of like a quarterly thing in case like 2 or 3 people, and it's not like too big of a lift on folks who are updating the website. Is that?
So I apologize. I thought it was updated. I typically update rosters as they are updated for
Okay.
all of our committees. So that was just I missed Commission on Aging.
Okay,
So
so there's an existing sort of,
yeah, just
Frequently
whenever it
do it.
gets updated is, yeah. So that's on me.
Is it? And is the place where you want us to go for this info, is it, and I wish that we could all see, but it's hard for me to describe where I was on our website, but it's that document that Dayton has pulled up on the information from this meeting. You know, the one.
Is it the spreadsheet or is it the spreadsheet or the roster?
it's the Commission on Aging Committee members.
Okay. So, okay, now I know what we're talking about. Which, now what's the question?
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
It looks exactly like this, but it doesn't match this.
Yeah. So this is the right one. I
Okay,
just didn't update it on the website.
okay,
Yeah, that's just
Thank
on
you.
me.
no worries.
And I have a follow-up question to the orientation, Melissa. Has that been scheduled? Okay,
It's coming.
got it. So by next meeting, will an orientation be
You bet.
wonderful?
Because we have 3 people, so.
Sounds like a
I like to attend those.
Yeah, and you did the last time, right, with the
Yeah.
2 Steves and.
Yeah, I like,
And Dave.
the more I hear it, the more.
So
Register.
people are excited and whoever can come. So.
Just keep in mind with 3 or more, it triggers an open meeting notice. So just awareness on that.
I forgot about that. You
So-
reminded us that last time too, I think.
So just awareness.
I can just send outside the door.
We'll put it out. Because
Yeah.
we will have probably 3, well, okay.
If there's a possibility for 3 or more,
Yeah.
then we have to err on the side of
Yeah.
posting.
Yeah, and I'll know the date so we can post
Yeah.
it.
Just whenever we get there. Commissioner Mitchell has her hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quarterly, Park County has an intergovernmental meeting, and it will be August 22nd in Alma. I will press hard to try to get Alma and Fairplay to find someone to join. So I just wanted to bring that out, that I've tried in the past, but every meeting I will press again because we really do need some more voices besides my lone voice from Park County.
Thank you, Amy. That'll be wonderful. And I think we've talked about it in the past. There being existing like flyers or materials on the Commission on Aging. And if we all have that same sort of flyer, we have the same information and can help with our recruitment efforts. So, Melissa, with that said, do we have like
We
a
have
flyer?
that,
Okay,
yes.
and I know like during the tabling events, it's probably being handed out,
Yeah.
but if we could include that in the minutes.
Yeah.
In this next round, that would be really
Okay.
helpful. And again, it just helps us all speak from the same sheet of music and deliver the same information as we're recruiting people. And I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah.
There be light.
So for those online, you probably noticed we have power again. Can I ask, can we take like a 5-minute recess
Yes, you
Yeah.
can.
to move to Wi-Fi and powered devices?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, Amy and Mary, we're taking a 5-minute recess, so bear with us. Thank you.
You want us to re-log in or just hold on?
You can just hold on. It's more so like this laptop. I was gonna be surprised if it's so.
Okay, no problem.
Yep, you should be good. Okay, good afternoon. Either Mary or Commissioner Mitchell, can you just verify that you can hear us, whether you want to or not?
Can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Took a little longer than 5 minutes, but we're back.
Yeah, I can hear and see you guys so much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared, for working your magic and showing some situational adaptability, as we call it at AARP. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and carry on. I believe we were finishing up on the membership committee items, and the following item is with the policy committee. And Amy, I'll give you the floor if you're ready to take the reins for any updates that you might be aware of on that front, please.
Sure. The Colorado Center for Aging and their meeting last Monday, basically we went over legislative bill SB 303 and talked about HH. Also what is going on with them, and that took the whole meeting. What they are working on forming committees and outlining what policies need to either be improved upon in statute or new issues being brought forth. So they're in the planning stages right now. Nothing has been inked on what they want to focus on, but they're talking about housing, doctor medical access, the usual challenges that we face every year, and see where legislation may have failed last year, what they can pick up and work on, or where improvement needs to be. So I would imagine in another month or so, we'll have a lot better list of what they're focusing on that we can utilize for our discussions.
Amy, can you mention the SB Senate bill again that you said right at the very beginning? I missed that.
Oh yeah. Do you want my commentary, or do you? It's Senate Bill 23-303, the property tax boondoggle, I will call it.
Okay.
Which also results in the ballot initiative HH.
Okay, the HH thing. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be on the ballot this November.
Okay.
And I would like to make one comment. This bill is a shell game. It says it's a property tax reduction bill, but it is a minor. The average benefit in Park County is going to be $67. So it is not a meaningful property tax reduction. It is going to backfill counties based on a formula, and about in 2 years, counties will not need backfill. It's taking Tabor to backfill. Tabor then will go to education and to continuously backfill special districts in fire and school districts. And Tabor will be gone in 3 to 5 years. I personally believe seniors benefit much more from their Tabor refund annually, because they can use that for food, medical expenses, pharmaceuticals, whatever they need to sustain their life, versus a multi-billion-dollar bill to fund education more. And I found out the state of Colorado has $10 billion in their education reserve fund right now. So I am personally going to be working really hard to defeat this, because I think it is really bad for seniors and most people living in the state of Colorado who can manage their Tabor refund much better than the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Any further discussion for the policy committee?
So Dayton, I think one of the things that we talked about was recognizing that I think both Amy and Kathy are interested in being on the policy committee officially, and that we need to look at whether it's Amy or Kathy, and I apologize, we might have already decided this, would be trying to attend the PPACG policy committees on a regular basis. Amy, do you recall if you had mentioned that you were going to try to actually attend those meetings regularly? Right now, of course, they're not meeting weekly, and they won't do that until we go back into session again. But did you mention last month that you might be interested in trying to attend those meetings, the PPACG ones?
Yeah, I did, and I am trying to remember when the usual schedule is, when they meet during the legislative session. It may be overextending me,
I bet.
because I'm pretty busy.
I know.
But I will absolutely do my best to participate, and maybe I can be the backup or the second, and participate as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, I remember Kathy stepping up and showing some interest. So I love that idea, Amy, and you being the backup to Kathy. And so if maybe the two of you can connect and kind of work something out alongside Melissa on like scheduling and kind of what the process might look like in the event that Kathy's unable to attend that legislative committee meeting with the PPACG, that would be terrific.
We'll be happy to.
Thank you so much, Amy. Really appreciate your passion on the topic, and I'm really curious on the PPACGs. And I think that's a good segue into the next information item of the PPACG Legislative Committee's insight on that bill and kind of the way that they're directing resources or not toward that. So with that said, I believe I'll pass it over to you, Jared, to give us an update on that. Thanks.
Sure, as I am trying to get our last few monitors up. So for 303 specifically, I know that was one that we were aware of, but just taxing and that kind of stuff just does not fall within the council of government's wheelhouse. So it was one that obviously a lot of our board of directors are very aware of, but more so for their own jurisdictions. It really is not something that impacts the council of governments directly. So how's that for kind of a non-answer to a position on that? And so for that one, otherwise, the legislative committee has not met since the last time the Commission on Aging met. I will say in general, they are looking at housing specifically, and housing typically has not been a PPACG issue. However, it is something, especially with 213, there was going to be a lot of requirements put on metropolitan planning organizations, which PPACG manages for the Colorado Springs urbanized area. So on top of multiple things, we were following 213 very closely. But from a strictly impact perspective, it was going to impact PPACG because it was going to put more requirements on us for housing analysis and that kind of stuff. So I think that's pretty much what I've got from a legislative committee perspective.
Jared, 213 House bill or Senate bill?
Senate bill.
It was Senate bill?
Yep. That was the land use bill.
Okay. Thank you.
And Amy, sorry to pass the ball back to you on that specific bill that you spoke of. Do you have insight from the Colorado Center for Aging and the way that they're the way that they're kind of pursuing different things on that?
On the proposition HH and 303?
Yes.
We did not take a formal vote on any position, but the general conversation was the members were really surprised to find out that Tabor was going to end if HH passes. And Tabor has been a annual infusion of returned tax dollars to people who've paid taxes. And so they were surprised that it was this would dry Tabor up. They were also surprised that it was going to fund education when it is titled as a property tax reduction. So there is an issue in the Supreme Court that it is it violates the single subject rule for legislation. That has not been heard yet. But the only topic that's interesting is TABOR puts money back in seniors' pockets. They're using the portable homestead exemption as a carrot to get seniors to vote for it. But in the ultimate discussion is the little bit they're going to benefit in property tax does not overcome the loss of TABOR refunds. And so we vowed we will go back and work on homestead exemption portability again next year as a single standalone bill. And we do not want people to fall for the carrot and end up with a complete loss of any refunds of their tax dollars in the future.
Amy, is there any sort of educational materials out there that inform voters on these sort of consequences around this ballot initiative?
Materials are being put together. I've had a lot of download from Colorado Counties Inc. because it is a real complicated bill with many different topics. I will reach out and find out. I know some counties were doing info sheets to just put out the exact points of what happens. As soon as something comes through that has been vetted and is accurate, I will absolutely make it available because it's hard to sift through the whole pile of information.
Well said, and I think it's so well worth the conversation around where we could point people to find that information and be informed as that initiative comes out. One last question on the ballot. And this is ignorant, but like what is the timeline around that landing on a ballot?
Well, the bill was signed so that we have to produce 2 budgets at the county level now, because one budget would be if HH does not pass. One county budget would be if HH does pass, which is a ballot question in November at the November election, which is November 7. So let me make sure that's right. Yeah, November 7. So that is when the question is asked of the people. Most of the information is going to start coming out maybe September, because people don't have a long enough attention span to be thinking about it now, except us counties who we survive on property tax. That's our only funding outside of what the state benevolently provides to us. So I think that's when the information is really going to start to flow.
Thank you for that, Amy. That's really, really insightful. And I think it is as an executive committee, maybe we could identify some of the guardrails within the commission's power on disseminating that information, or emphasizing on some of those implications that come along with that voting.
I agree.
Wonderful. So we'll go ahead and move on here to PPACG board item 6D. And Jared, I'll give you the floor again. Thanks.
Sure, thank you. So in terms of action items from the last board meeting that took place at Woodland Park last Wednesday, no action items specifically related to aging, but a lot of information items. I'm going to single out Aaron, who did a fantastic presentation on Age Friendly 2.0. Same one that you guys heard, so it wasn't anything new, but I thought the board was really receptive. I don't know if you would agree as well, but I thought they really ate it up. And then we heard a lot of updates from Teller Senior Coalition, and the great work that they're doing up there as part of the kind of the board's workshop information session at the end. So it's a relatively light aging meeting outside of information items to the board last meeting. Next meeting for the board will be back here on August 9th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Jared. Any questions for Jared on the PPACG board front? Excellent. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Chair report. I believe in our materials, there's a really generic part, and let me see if I could identify the page. I believe it's page 11. At the top is more or less, and I'll give Jared an opportunity to get there. Yep. I want to point out the internal and external sort of goals in that are really top of mind of myself as well as the executive committee. We've had some conversations around these things internally, and I've said this in past meetings repeatedly, is really just building that foundation, and that foundation is composed of those principles of engagement, the membership matrix, the prioritization tool questionnaire, and their data repository. The CASOA is the newest sort of addition to that foundation as a point of reference as we develop some of those external goals that we will be prioritizing and that sort of thing. I also think it's so important for this commission to develop those sort of internal goals amongst the committees that we have, just as we talked about a little bit earlier. Don't really need to dive too deep into those, but really want to get to a place as a commission as each committees develop and gain more folks from the commission participating on those committees to do, come up with their own goals and objectives that they would like to fulfill, so that we as a commission can be successful. And that's all I have for the chair report at a really high level. So happy to answer any questions. If none, we could move on in the agenda.
Dayton, do you see in the future other committees being formed? And if so, what would those be?
I do. I think it would be, of course, driven by the long-term goals. So I envision us coming up with a 4-year plan that really affects those, and we'll review the outline, but affects change at a systems level, and does that by being informed by the CASOA. So as initiatives get really apparent in front of us, and those objectives that are a heavier lift than others, I think those could be formed if it requires like the full dedication and commitment of commissioners. I also see us having the flexibility, if we don't want to incorporate or adopt a formal committee of the commission, of having that flexibility of adding an ad hoc committee as needed. So as things come up, we have that sort of ability to add an ad hoc committee. An immediate one that comes to mind, and it goes in line with what Paula had said earlier of engaging the Kiwanis group, is an outreach or engagement committee of how do we really engage folks in the communities that we are representing and wanting to work with and hear from. So those are just a couple of things that come to mind, Mary, as we take some steps forward.
Perfect. Thank you. That makes sense.
Great. We'll go and move over to the strategic planning, 7A, and review the proposed goals and objectives. And bear with me, this is, and the executive committee did review this a couple of weeks ago, and it is a really high level sort of outline of some goals, objectives, and tactics. So what I really wanted to focus in on was the goals, as well as the general format of the goals and objectives, because I think each, again, we want to be data informed, and at the same time, we want to, the CASOA doesn't come out it comes out every 4 years. So how do we really kind of stay on task in between then? And how do we really gauge our progress in some of these areas that we're trying to make a difference? So that needs to be taken into account as we like really solidify and fill in some of these details of this outline. But I just wanted to get an overall sort of feedback on this outline as well as some of the goals that are listed here. So I'll open the floor up, and if you haven't had an opportunity to review, we could kind of scroll through them quickly, and I'll lean on Jared once again to help us out with that.
No one's talking, Commissioner Mitchell, so there's no sound in here either.
And I do want to point out that there was materials and information sent in advance of this. I highlighted some areas in the CASOA report that I encourage folks to look at that essentially informed some of this information, mainly the goals. The objectives, of course, are, you know, aspirational for sure, and may not be really suitable for what this commission is equipped to do or should be doing. So certainly want to point those things out. But I think our first step toward this journey of identifying a 4-year plan, we need to all be on the same page of what are those goals, how many of those goals, and how do we really measure our progress and identify some of the objectives and tactics of accomplishing those goals. So that was the idea as this was drafted.
I'm looking through the emails that I got, and I didn't get this document. It may have missed me through an email switch, but was this emailed out?
So Mary, this is Melissa, and I am saying, yes, it probably did miss you because of your email switch. So I'll definitely send it out to you today, so you can at least have it. Sorry, it didn't get to you before that.
That's okay. And then
Yep.
just, looking through it from Jared scrolling, it does look like it's in line to the 4-year report. Something that stood out was the amount of volunteers needed and the lack of volunteer opportunities, and then the amount of people over 60 who have disabilities in El Paso County. I think it was like 30%. And so it looks like these goals really target some of those things that stood out to me after reviewing the report. But yeah, being able to dig deeper a little bit in them would be helpful. Thank you.
One last thing I'll point out too, and I think I'll say this first. So you'll notice in a good amount of these objectives, there's a lot of advocacy, right? And that kind of goes in line with this idea of how we engage not only us as a group and others in the community, but older adults themselves to advocate for certain initiatives going on at the legislature. And I know Jody's spoken repeatedly about opportunities to do testimonials or give testimony at the Capitol and or virtually. And so I think as these things kind of roll out, one of our, just as an example, initiatives could be really creating educational tools or bringing awareness of channels for older adults to give to have that opportunity to give testimonials or give testimony. So that's just one example of many as we kind of just go down this road. So I'll point that out. I'll also point out the advocating for age-friendly infrastructure and policies that support aging in place. Erin and I actually really recently learned about how other states are actually funding age-friendly communities, and there's so much value in that, and that's being talked about at the state level of how does that translate to Colorado, and what does that mean for older adults and all these other things. So that's what comes to mind for me is how do we articulate the value of age-friendly infrastructure for policymakers, and how do we articulate that and communicate it to older adults as well so that they're equipped to, should a bill come down the line or an opportunity down the line to support aging in place and age-friendly infrastructure, that's in line. So that's another example that comes to mind in Objective 3 and Goal 2. Last note on this item is I just want to get a feel at a really basic level of how folks are feeling about this outline of the goals, the way it's laid out, not specifically the content of it.
My question is very basic. Why is number 2 not goal 2? Is that just a typo?
Yes, it is a typo.
Okay, thank you.
And you might notice that there's a tactic missing as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, that is the ideal sort of outline there is number 2, where that's goal number 2, engage and advocate. It has an objective and some tactics underneath it. So ideally, us as a commission have some tactics or are able to brainstorm some tactics to accomplish those objectives. So increasing testimonials among senior service providers and seniors, a tactic might be creating educational tools and channels for that.
One more thought about the outline. Because at Innovations in Aging, as you know, we think about who our partners are to implement these goals, in our own organization. Because I'm new to the COA, I'm not sure if my thoughts about who partners would be for doing this work are accurate or, historical partnerships, effective partnerships for this group. But it would be helpful for me looking at the outline, thinking about who else would be really engaged in getting this work done. If we could put something in there about who are most, even if it was just 1 or 2 organizations, who we could think about working together with on the broad goals, high level.
I think it's an excellent thought as we kind of clean up the format a little bit and it get a little bit more formalized. I could definitely see almost like a box under the goal of like partner organizations, a dedicated field to us and or to partner organizations. And of course, I think with that being said, that might be where that ad hoc committee comes in play and really gets these goals or objectives in front of them and lets them know, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And if we could help, get your commitment to, I don't know, give us some information or whatever. But great thought.
And Dayton, as the person who did a tremendous amount of work on the 4-year plan and the CSOA, I really like seeing kind of the plan and the CSOA in action. For you to think about and see the wisdom of taking that work and tying it directly to the Commission on Aging, and then pulling some very specific pieces out of it and putting it together in like 2 pages, I think is really good. And so I really look forward to, commissioners really, kind of digging in another month, really looking at it, thinking about, and I'm going to put our 2 rural folks on the spot, Steve and Amy, being in Teller County, being in Park County, do you see how these goals and objectives also align with things that are happening in Park and Teller County? When we did the 4-year plan and the CSOA, those counties were polled, we got information from them as well. But then sometimes I think when we start talking down here in Colorado Springs, we do get really carried away with what's really happening, boots on the ground in Colorado Springs. So I'm curious from Steve and then from Amy, when you look at these, if they resonate with you guys in Teller and Park County as strongly as it would, for those of us who are here in El Paso County. And so maybe Jared, if you could scroll down again and pull up those goals and objectives a little bit. We had the healthcare and housing, transportation, social engagement, caregiver support. I think that was it.
I think they do. And a thought that I had was, I'd like to put these in front of our case management leader at Teller Senior Coalition. Because the 2 big silos at TSC are transportation and case management, direct services to clients, and see how that group of staff feels about this. Because my hunch is we're on the right track. But I'm going to solicit a little bit more from our team at TSC and see what kind of feedback I can get.
Great idea.
I can comment in general. First, we are very sad that Jeannie's leaving us at our senior coalition, which she was wonderful and had such a heart for seniors. But I understand she's young and is moving on to another opportunity. The goals are good. The practicality and ability to enact some of them. We do not have senior housing in Park County. Transportation is through the voucher system, which works well because there really has not been a transportation system that we have been able to figure out for the challenges in Park County. So I'm happy to look at these in a little bit more depth, but caregiver support, usually that is neighbors helping neighbors. We do have a clinic. Neighbors use vouchers to take their neighbors to doctor appointments and such. But we just don't have the density and ability to do what can happen in Teller and El Paso counties. And we all live up here and know that.
Well, since this does mirror the 4-year plan, and I know we'll probably know more with Alyssa with your insight, but would there be duplications of efforts or efforts that we can help foster that work in tandem with both goals? And maybe even what the age-friendly action plans as well with from innovations.
And I think not only the duplication of services, but the consistency of the same information throughout the counties or the areas because you want the message to be consistent. So you want everyone on the same page. You don't want someone talking caregiver circle here and someone talking it down here and they don't match. And then people saying, well, this one said this and this one said that. Same with transportation. You want it to be consistent across the table. So that to me is really important too.
And the Area Agency on Aging, we do as a staff have some goals and a work plan before us that link to the 4-year plan. And then we also have that 4-year plan linking to our partner agencies who are funded through the AAA. So there's, a connection there. That said, the partner agencies that are funded by AAA are still, completely free to do whatever they want to do. But in terms of the funding that they get from us, we do absolutely look for them to be aligned with really high level needs in the 4-year plan that came out through the CASOA. So we have asked for that from the partners. So definitely looking for the alignment. I too, when I read this, I saw it aligning with the age-friendly Pikes Peak plan, the social engagement and inclusion, as well as I think housing and transportation. I forget if those are the ones that are combined together as potential working groups in the future. So I see the alignment there. And I just really was glad to see that Dayton, as the chair of this committee, kind of went to that level with this. So I think that really was a good move. So thank you, because we've been just kind of talking about things, but to me, this really nailed it. So it's just trying to get to, okay, so, what numbers do we want to put to things and what do we really want to do? We've got, 4 things with a lot of objectives. Maybe we want 4 things and 1 objective, and so for this, for the commission to kind of get into that detail, hopefully next month to really, and the executive committee can do some more work on it too. But I think that we need the input from all the commissioners to make sure that, we really are adopting a plan that everybody's excited about for the next 4 years. And as we bring on new members, they'll get this in their orientation, and actually they'll get it before orientation because they'll get it as part of their membership. It'll be like, here's the plan we're working on. Is this what you're interested in? And people can say, oh, I really want to be doing something over here. Or yeah, that's exactly what I want to be doing. So this is really good.
Thank you, Melissa, and thanks everyone for your awesome insight and wisdom. And Steve, really appreciate you taking this and getting some feedback from those in Teller. And as Melissa had said, really encourage everyone in advance of next meeting to kind of go through this, redline it as much as you'd want. No ego or feelings hurt in this. It's certainly a starting place for us, and hopefully a good starting place where we can really build in some strong metrics where we are all on the same page of what success looks like and the progress that we're making and the impact that we're making. Right. So moving right along to the next item here in reviewing the public input prioritization questionnaire. And Jared, I'll look to you to pull that up for us. Looks like you do have it up. And I might need a little help kind of recalling where we left this conversation. I know that there was some strong feelings on like, we don't know what this tool does until we publish it and try it. I certainly heard that amongst this group. And the second piece in my mind, at least one of my takeaways, was how do we get this in the hands of folks in order to try it out? And I think we'd come up with like, what does a Google form or Microsoft form look like, or a digital form, a printout form, that sort of thing, and get it in the doors of senior centers. And that's that's where I believe we left the conversation. But for refresher's sake, we can just review this one more time in terms of the language, because I know there was some language also needing cleaning up. So let's go ahead and review this and then talk next steps in actually testing out the tool.
And I think it's just the 3 questions on here now. Or is it just the 3, Jared? Or there's 4 questions. So originally there were quite a few questions on this. And so now we are literally down to 4 questions. So keep that in mind too. And, just take a minute and read through these and see if it covers it.
Melissa, are you looking for any feedback?
Mhm.
So this survey is new to me, and this is a tool that we're going to use to send out in the Tri-County region for feedback directly to PPACG from older adults.
Possibly. So what happens is we have people who call us and
Okay.
say, we'd like to see a long-term care community be built in the Fountain area because there's nothing down there. And so we say, okay, and will you take a few minutes and fill this out to give yourself, person who is concerned about that, an opportunity to think it through a little bit more and specifically about what the commission might be able to do to partner and help. And then second, this gives the commission, some more specific information versus just a personal testimony about kind of what they're concerned about. It helps people to really kind of build their case a little bit more. But we also don't want them to have to write a dissertation. And so really we do have the little blocks, like, can people put their information in a block? You don't have to write a huge amount. And the other reality is people don't have to fill it out. They can call me and they can give me the answers and I can type it up myself.
Okay.
So people don't have to feel compelled that they have to, do that either. So yeah, that's kind of the intent of this, is to help people who want to come and give us the information. This is what they could do. Yes. Then the second part to that is who do we send it to, and how do we disseminate it? If we're going to disseminate it to, the senior center for Silver Key and, Monument, yeah, how are we going to get it out to people?
Okay.
Yeah, Melissa described it so well. The only thing that I would add is, the context of this was originally with our prioritization tool and our data repository. So one, as kind of a group that's open to the public and really accountable to the public, we have to be transparent of where we're getting our information. So that kind of inspired the idea of like having this data repository of like, where are we informed, where are we getting our information from? And we kind of realized that excuse me, it couldn't be only sort of data driven. We needed that qualitative data and that the voice of those folks who are being impacted. And so this is our means of really kind of getting a tool out there that allows folks to really voice their concerns around some of the issues that they're seeing in their communities. And with that said, we're able to kind of take this information into account as we're prioritizing our goals and what our focuses are on as a commission. So if we get many of these things on issues related to housing or transportation or caregiving support or social isolation, we could really just kind of intuitively say, hey, we're getting so much feedback on this single issue. What are we doing about this? And so it's really just an empowerment sort of tool where it's like, hey, this is a great way of interfacing with us and really informing the direction of where we're turning our attention.
So I have a couple thoughts. Do we have to call it public input and prioritization case statement? Because if we're going to ask people to fill it out, if we would ever send it to somebody and ask them to fill it out independently, I think that might be a showstopper with that name in the beginning. And I wish I had a suggestion. Yeah. Yeah, so okay thinking. But I don't know, if it's, let me think. I'll keep my brain spinning. But something that's a little bit less scary. It feels scary. And
Like community input and priorities.
yeah, or even just community input. I worry about the word priorities because if we call it priorities, people might,
Collaboration.
yeah, collaborations or engagement, something like that. Because priorities makes it sound like you better make this sound important or it's going right to the bottom of the pile.
Right.
It's public input.
Public input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, I think that, yeah, it's such a great point. And like, think about like a preamble of like, tell us what you think, tell us what your challenges are, and just really being an inviting sort of thing. So that's such a great point. It's so institutionalized of like, what does that mean? I don't know what prioritization case statement means.
Yes, yes. And this is very nitpicky, but I like to capitalize age friendly. And age friendly is hyphenated but not capitalized under the first paragraph under vision statement, just for consistency in the communication of age friendly across this region. And hyphenated and capitalized both. So, and it's not standard across America. So, but that's what I'm trying to do just here in Southern Colorado. And I think I like key stakeholders and organizations. Is it too institutional though? I think saying organizations is okay. And do you think we'll lose people by saying stakeholders? Yeah.
My strategic thought
Uh-huh.
connected to what you just said is this whole thing is too heavy.
Yeah.
If I took this to the senior center in Woodland Park, a military connection, one of the things we teach about dealing with colonels and general officers is what we call the 5 to 8 second rule. So if you send a piece of correspondence to one of those people and you haven't grabbed them within 5 to 8 seconds, they're setting it aside and moving on to something else. I can promise you from personal experience that that's true. If I took this to the senior center and handed it to 4 or 5 people who just happened to be there that day, they get to the second or third sentence and hand it back to me. I don't know how you solve that, but this feels a little bit like a self-licking ice cream cone, which is another expression that we use. In other words, whatever the bureaucrat or staff officer is creating has more value to them and perhaps their own career progression than it does to the target audience. And I'm not sure how to solve that, but my sense is there's got to be a better way, but I don't know what that is. And so I immediately, which is why I jumped in right now, I immediately looked at that word stakeholder. And I probably couldn't find 4 people in the senior center who not only don't know what that word means, but have never seen it before.
Yeah. And then I can just see people's eyes glazing
Oh, yeah.
over.
And that's the 5 to 8 second.
Yeah.
You get to a point where they just stop.
Mhm.
It's like, it makes me feel dumb. It makes me feel ignorant. It makes me feel like I don't know stuff.
Mhm.
And all I want is help with a particular issue.
Mhm.
I'm projecting a little bit because I don't know that
Yeah.
for sure, but that's
Yeah.
the sense that I have.
Thank you. I think you put into words broadly everything I was going to say about all these questions, all the pieces, because some of it feels.
I thought I was alone.
No, you're not alone. I think it's because I was a speech therapist in my previous life. So I'm imagining like the communication piece of this. But I like the details of it for if someone calls here and there's a person here who is helping fill this out, because someone who knows about stakeholders and legislation and policy, that helps them keep asking the questions until they get their answers. But I think if we give this to somebody, it needs to say, what are you concerned about? Who can help you? Do you have anything extra to tell us about this? Because it's been my experience that when someone has a problem within a system, they don't know the policy or the legislation or the systemic issue. They just know they have cockroaches today and they need someone to get rid of the cockroaches. So, yeah, I think you put it very well. Thank you. Yes, yeah. And they don't have to know about the legislation. They just need to know about the cockroaches.
So a couple of, unless Amy's got her hand up. Okay, good.
I do, just real quick. I love the input from you, and maybe we should make this a little bit more personal. Like question 1, what brought you to be concerned about your issue? Just say, please tell us about the challenge you are facing, or the challenge you and your friends are facing, and or friends, and make it a little bit more personal. And maybe that would help them want to articulate in writing what's going on. Who else suffers from these problems? Number 2, who do you think might be able to help solve these problems? I mean, maybe we just need to get it down into a much more personal level.
And so I completely agree with all of that. I think we've kind of gone a little bit in a circle, so to speak, because we do have people who come to us with just that basic information. But then what happened that led us to then create 12 questions and then bring us down to 4 and now possibly back to 3 is that then people come to the commission and we want to be able to communicate to the older adults or people in general who want to come, how the commission can really help. And so I think that it's important to, remember that we want to hear from people in general because we want to know what is on people's minds. We will have goals and target areas that we work in, and we can communicate that to the general public, but we also still want to hear from people just in general about things. But then the reality is the commission might not be able to jump in and help on every issue that every person brings forward. And so we have to be super careful to communicate that, somehow, some way, so that people understand, yes, we want to hear what your issues are, but here are the priorities that the commission is working on as well. So we just have to keep kind of balancing that a little bit, because we have had people come to present, and it was just hard to see where the commission could actually help. And so that led to 12 questions. So and wanting to encourage people to do more homework before they come to the commission. That said, I think that if this got presented to the teller group up there, the teller senior center, and somebody wanted to go into detail about it, they can call me, which is what they do. So they call me and we can talk, and I can hear them answer those very simple questions. And then I can ask some additional ones, and I can be filling out this sheet. Prior to having all the questions, I was just, kind of flying blind talking to people. This gives me more direction for when people actually do call. When I say that I could be the person who answers that, it's very possible that a commissioner could actually be having that conversation with somebody. And so maybe, it's not me that's having the conversation. It is somebody else on the commission who volunteers for a year to play that role and have that deeper dive with people. But until that happens, I'm happy for that person to be me because it has been me up until now. So it's just a matter of, how do we continue to be open to wanting to hear what people have to say, but also balance it with, here's what the commission can do and what the commission's priorities are, but we still want to hear from you. So keep that all in mind. And does Amy have her hand up again?
Oops, no, I do not. I forgot to put it down. Sorry.
This is Mary. I also, just bringing some context, I recall that we got the idea to form this sheet based upon the criteria that we were going to use our prioritization tool with the issues. So this, the information they would give us would guide us in understanding, in directing us how it would kind of level out of importance. So that's when we were creating the I can't say it. We were creating that tool. We said, well, we need some way to get input from the community. Let's create a sheet. And this sheet was created based upon that tool. So that was kind of the idea at large, in why the questions that you see there were created. But I agree with what everyone has said as well. Maybe the questions are too much where people are not really going to spend. They're going to, like you said, Steve, they're going to see it and then push it aside. They're not actually going to fill the questions out. So just wanted to give some context of how those questions were created.
Mary, I really appreciate you bringing that context forward, because during one of our strategic meetings, we all agreed upon those priority indicators, and then those translated into questions, a bunch of questions, and then this is kind of the consolidated version. So with that said, I do hear everyone, and this is completely institutionalized. I understand that. I think I've been a big advocate of accessibility. How do we make this accessible for people and really easy for people to fill out? I can commit to massaging this language to be more universally understood and in a easy and accessible way for people to understand. I think first and foremost, who is our target audience that we're wanting this tool to reach needs to be taken in consideration. And is it only older adults? Is it PPACG board members? Is it caregivers or others, the general community? So I think that needs to be really clear on who this tool is for, so that we could get the language or the way that these are written in a way that is accessible to most folks. So with all that said, I'll commit to massaging it. Thank you, Paula. Appreciate it. And then after that, we are testing it out. Because I think we've reviewed it 4 times now. So yeah, just really want to get this in the playing field and get the feedback from folks. And we could probably go round and circle here for the rest of the year, but we don't know until we get it in the hands of folks. All right, we'll go to 7C here in quarterly plan for PPACG public comment opportunities. Focus on first public comment in September. And Melissa, I'll give it to you to give some context and we could continue the combo.
Yeah. So at the executive committee level, we were kind of looking, I think, at this from two different perspectives. One was, do we reach out and try to have some citizen input at a PPACG board meeting come September? Or do we have just a PPCOA member give kind of an update on a topic that we're concerned about and wanting to address? And it could be kind of a combination of the two. But the reality is we'd like to see if somehow we can have, once a quarter, something happening during that public comment section on the PPACG board. Now that is where somebody gets 3 minutes to speak about something that's important. And so, we really would like to try, again, this is, as we work towards, hitting some goals and objectives and hitting some markers, between now and the end of the year, just kind of throwing that date out there. Let's see if we could actually, have a citizen or a commissioner, or the combination of the two, doing some type of presentation for 3 minutes to the PPACG board in September. And in order to do that, it is public comments, so it doesn't have to be formally scheduled with the PPACG board. It just needs to be conveyed to Jared. Is it a week before or the day before even for public comment?
Literally, you could just show up that morning. Now I will give some more background. So I think if the COA wants to present to the board, we can do that not as a public comment, but as a presentation, which is not limited to 3 minutes. Now that is subject to the board putting it on their agenda and submitting it for approval. Now, I think that's worthy of consideration. My understanding is that before the pandemic, that was fairly common for committees to do something like that. Now that pre-pandemic is also pre-COA under the PPACG umbrella. But that my understanding is that was fairly common for committees to be able to present what they've discussed at the previous meetings for the board's consideration. Now, if it's someone, a citizen providing public comment and that is 3 minutes, they don't need to sign up. We'd like them to, just so we have a good idea of timing. But I think if it's COA, I think that's something we can take back and say, hey, they'd like to be on the September agenda as a presentation. Yes, yay, no, yes, no, or indifferent. So.
And we did talk about kind of both. We want the COA to actually do a more formal presentation, especially as we narrow down and get the goals and objectives identified, to actually have that more formal presentation. But we also just wanted to be able to hopefully have citizens, get in front of the board as well during that public comment period and share something, again, so that the PPACG board members are hearing from citizens themselves, hopefully older adults who are just kind of talking about things that are important and hopefully aligned with the Commission on Aging, and then therefore, getting the support from PPACG at some point in time. So
I don't recall if we had something in mind for September.
So we could, look at, so next month is August. Fortunately, it's the middle of August when the commission meets, so that's really good. But, so we might be able to identify with those goals and objectives, are we going to be more excited about housing or transportation or caregiving? And then between the Commission on Aging meeting next month and when the PPACG board meets, we might be able to say, I know somebody who could, talk about caregiving for 3 minutes, and that would be the priority. And, we just make it happen. And then we look at the next quarter and the next quarter, so we do 4 a year. And it sounds like we might already have a caregiving one kind of nailed down for possibly doing it in at the September board meeting. So, and then we just kind of see what happens. But I think once we know what those goals and objectives are, that'll help. But I'm just pulling caregiving because I saw it on there. And then Paula volunteered, so we might be set. And Paula, do you think you could find a person to join you too? You know? Yeah. 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 So you could speak and then that person in 3 minutes and it's just a little, a little commercial to, okay. So we have our September plan unless Mary, Amy, or anybody else wants to get over Paula's idea.
I can't commit to anything at the moment because things are up in the air for me, but once some things land and nail down, then I can commit, but I can't right now.
Amy Mitchell here. I think Paula's idea is great.
And then the next one after September will be February. What is the next? Or December? Somebody help me with timing.
Yes, yeah, the fourth quarter would be October, November, December.
Thank you. So then we would look at trying to do something in December. No, we're talking about the PPACG board meeting. Would be the second Wednesday of September.
Melissa, maybe on that last one. So if we're kind of coinciding with our goals document,
Oh,
happy to do a promoting social engagement and inclusion
okay.
and getting someone on that front.
Okay. Great.
Fantastic.
So everybody has to adopt those goals next month. Anyway, which I think everybody will like them. But, sweet.
Thank you, Paula. Looking forward to that. So I think we're good on that front. And I think as Melissa had said, might be added to that internal goal at the real top line level there of like, as a commission, we will aim to do quarterly public comments with the PPACG board. I think that's a great sort of internal goal to have. So we're kind of building some familiarity around our initiatives and making sure that folks that we're working with are getting in front of them. All right. Discussion items. Anyone have any discussion items?
Well, I appeared to be on my phone all meeting, but I have 7 emails or texts out to Rotary Kiwanis groups and I already have a booking for us at the Woodland Park Rotary on August 25th. They meet at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, but they have breakfast. And if we could just have some prepared talking points for the commission, like history, this type of thing that we could just have prepared for us so that because that's the kind of questions I foresee us getting, like, tell us the history, like when did it start? What's the background of it? That type of thing. And then we can launch all of my texts and emails talked about presenting about the work we're doing and then helping us to secure a member from their community to be a part of our group. So that is what I've been doing. I haven't been playing solitaire.
Maybe both.
Maybe both. So yeah, anyway, I'll be waiting with bated breath for responses.
I would like to share with this group, for anyone who's not familiar with the digital equity survey that the state is going through right now. Briefly, the federal government would like to know who does not have access to the internet and why. And so they are paying states to ask those questions of everyone who lives in the United States of America. So it's a big lift. And oh, it's here. Where is that, Dayton?
That's from the city of Denver, but.
Oh, okay, that's
regardless,
from
the
Denver.
information
Okay, I
is
thought
still-
this was
still
on.
good.
Okay. So, um, states have been sending out digital surveys to people to understand why they can't get on the internet. And we can all understand that there is probably just a little bit of a problem reaching the people you want to reach when you are surveying in that way. So what Colorado is doing, which is brilliant, is they're partnering with community organizations who can go to people and help them fill out these digital surveys and provide paper surveys to understand. So the state of Colorado would like for every Coloradan to fill out the survey. And they're especially interested in, Dayton has pulled this up for me, second language speakers of English, veterans, immigrants, adults over 60, people living in rural areas, people with disabilities, people in minority communities, and people who are living in poverty. So Innovations in Aging is one of about 18 organizations in Colorado that are trying to get these surveys completed. We're focusing on adults over 60, but we want everybody to give their voice because, I mean, I think that we can all presume that if you live in the city, if you live in an apartment, if you're 25 years old, you probably have both a computer and access to the internet because it's both of those things. So the state wants to know, do you not have access to the internet because you don't have an internet line out to your community? Or do you not have access to the internet because you don't have a laptop? Or do you not have access to the internet because you don't understand how to use those things? Or maybe you can't afford to pay for internet. So it's really, they want to know what the problem is. And then next year, they're going to start solving the problem. So based on the answers that we get, that is going to direct these federal dollars to communities to bridge the gap for people who don't have access. And I know that adults over 60 don't have access. So I would love to have as many older adults as we can fill out this survey. And to your point, Steve, earlier, the survey is very institutional. It is. It asks questions about digital equity in a way that I think can be inaccessible for adults over 60. So, all of that to say, I would like to share with this group the information that we have, and just please share it with your friends, with your neighbors, just spreading the word in general that this is the reason that we're doing the survey, I think can be helpful because I don't want it to feel threatening. I want everybody to say their piece so that the state knows who's in the greatest need for these resources.
We wrestle with that question at the Teller Senior Coalition every single day. But I'd like to make sure that our head of client services, and I share it with our board too, just so that they know, gets a hold of this information because everything you just said is news to me. We have over 1,000 clients. And so, to be able to use us as a sort of probably the largest hub in Teller County that has connection to seniors would be a really good idea. And I'd like to help with that.
Thank you.
And it wouldn't be so hard to do. I just institutionalized. That's all right. We'll figure it out. As a quick aside, just within the last 6 months, and I call it the hinterlands of Divide and Florissant. I don't live in the hinterlands of Divide and Florissant. I'm at the first traffic light in Divide, less than a mile from US 24. But within the last 6 months, my neighborhood has just gotten fiber optic cable. And so when the installer was in my house, I said, why are you doing it now? And who's paying for this? Because it seems like it would be really expensive. And I don't think you're doing it as a public service to me. And he said the government is giving millions of dollars to rural, okay,
Billions.
maybe it's a B rather than an M. lots of money
Mm.
to rural communities. And boy, I'll tell you, the dish is still on my roof, but at least it isn't connected anymore. And the difference in terms of reliability and dependability of the service has been dramatic. So
Mhm.
stuff is being done, but
Mhm.
obviously we can still do more.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad to hear that you have internet out there in your
Well, we
neighborhood.
had it. It's just it was satellite, and
Yeah.
you know we had a tower get hit by lightning, so that took care of me for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You know, a while back. But to get the fiber optic cable has been tremendous.
Mhm.
It's just been great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that feedback. Would it be okay, Melissa, if I email to you the information about the survey and you can share it with this group? Okay, thank you. I'll send that to you.
And Amy, I know your hand is up just really quickly. Wanted to add, there's just clarifying, there's $42.5 billion coming down from the feds as a result to fund these initiatives. There's 3 buckets called BEAD, broadband equity, something and deployment. There's digital equity planning and execution, and then there's ACP, Affordable Connectivity Program. And the survey that Erin is speaking to informs a lot of the allocations across the state and the country. So these surveys are just so imperative to give the state a case of not only where they need to allocate domestically within the state, but also informing the feds of how much money we need as a state on some of these initiatives. I think we got $800 billion for the BEAD thus far just last month to fund some of those fiber initiatives being built in highways and that sort of thing. I'll add one more survey, if I may, that the state is also really pressed to do. They've only have 49 responses. I'm on the governor's digital equity work group, and they reported they have only 49 responses in their Colorado digital equity ecosystem mapping. Talk about institutionalized. They're calling it the DEEM survey, and its goal is to actually hear from organizations. So the survey that Erin is speaking about is specifically to hear from folks themselves as individuals, those groups that she talked about. And then there is another that is looking to hear from organizations. And I think the PPACG and the Teller Senior Coalition and could really give great insight into this initiative. And yeah, there's going to be so much money coming down the pipeline next year. And happy to talk a little bit more about that if people are interested next month, if we're interested in learning some of the details of that. But we are in such a critical window right now because there is so many resources coming down the pipeline to fund these initiatives and get people connected. Amy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question. This questionnaire, does it ask for people who are underserved or who are not served at all?
It is asking every citizen in Colorado how they access the internet. So underserved, not served, or people who are doing just fine. They want to know where the potential gaps might be and who's doing great.
Okay, maybe working through the senior coalition, because people who are not served at all, we can't send them an email and ask them to fill out the
Yes,
survey.
I know.
So we're going to have to go to physical locations to get the information. And if you've seen the broadband map, 30% of Park County is underserved or not served at all. And I could probably answer those questions for most of those people. It's either financial because satellite is so expensive and they put data limits on. And when you go over the data limit, it just slows down to the point where it drives you crazy, or you just keep hemorrhaging money. Or there is physically no way to put fiber to homes up here. So we're going to have to get creative on how to get that filled out. And some people do not want to be found. So that's a whole nother issue within Park County. So I'll put my thinking cap on and see what we might be able to do to get people to fill out questionnaires. And I have one announcement. We are going to be starting a search for a new senior coalition director. So if you know anyone who wants to move to the mountains and work for Park County, running our senior coalition, we'd be happy to direct them to me or to our parkco.us website. Thanks.
So Dayton, will you send out a link for the ecosystem mapping for the organizations? The Regional Advisory Council, well, and the AAA has their quarterly meeting with the providers on the 26th, so next week. And so they could share that at the provider meeting next week to all the providers to try to encourage them to get the word out. And Erin, I work with apartment managers with all of the senior 60+ apartments in Colorado Springs. So we could get the survey in the hands of those property managers for all of those apartment buildings, if that would be helpful, if you're not already doing that.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. And then, yeah, we'll share with the case managers here at this agency, let alone other places. So
I have one more thing to mention, and I realize there's 2 minutes left, so bear with me. So public comment earlier sparked for me that public comment period is open for the Older American Act. And so I hope that we can in some way share a pathway for folks to be able to access and comment on the revision or amendment, I don't know the formal language, on the Older American Act that's open right now. So I definitely want to get that out there that is happening now, and I couldn't say when that closes. I know it's soon. With that said, the digital equity plan for Colorado will be published in October. That digital equity plan is being informed by these surveys that we just talked about. And comparably to the OAA, there will be a public comment period for that digital equity plan. I'm working really hard with Colorado, Nebraska, and New Mexico on having a teletown hall so that we can engage folks and give them an opportunity to have their public comment on their digital equity plans. Regardless of that, I do think there's an opportunity to get in front of that public comment period and make it accessible for people and bring awareness that there is an opportunity to give your public comment on our state's digital equity plan, which will be in October. So want to get that in front of this group, and hopefully we could keep it in front of us so we could do what we can to get those resources in front of folks. Thanks.
one last public comment, unless there's others. Kathy, who could not attend today, wanted me to mention that Silver Key is hosting their 5 Wishes activity that they do on Friday. So if anyone is interested, that is happening this Friday. Check out Silver Key's website for more information.
All right, all. Great meeting. Appreciate you all for your commitment to this group and just such amazing conversation. So rich. So we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you all.